Hey everybody, thank you so much for coming in. I'm January,
And I'm Mars.
and this is Femmes at Large, Femininity, and whatever we want to talk about. But today we're going to be talking about the Manosphere and how it relates to femininity and why we think it exists,
Mm-hmm.
and possibly the solution as to how to help them help themselves. But we're gonna get into that, and we're really excited about that. But before we do, we're gonna get into some media. Mars, what we got for this week? What you feeling?
This week, the first topic is going to be a little similar to last week, but I just feel like because it is the trending topic as we record this, it may not be when we release it, but it'll still be relevant. So last week we talked quite a bit about, Lauren Hill because, she was the topic of the news week that week and just kind of her unprofessionalism and all of that. So Andre 3000 just dropped his first personal work, like first solo work in like what 20 something years, and there's no raps on it, no raps whatsoever. I don't feel a personal way about that because I've been following Andre 3000 this entire time and I've watched his like progression into like hermitage and just like being whatever, doing whatever Andre 3000 wants to do, and like, basically the exact opposite of what Lauren Hill has been doing. Because there was an argument kind of brewing on Twitter, which I sent over to Jan, basically saying like, you guys get mad at Lauren Hill, for every, and Three Stacks does the same thing, and it's like,
It's not the
mm,
same.
I don't know about that. So before I even get into the album, what are your thoughts on like kind of the person that Andre 3000 has kind of become over the past
Mm.
2 decades, and in comparison to like Lauren Hill's, you know,
Yeah,
being that she has become.
yeah. I think it's like really nuanced because I think Andre 3000, like, he definitely has more access than Lauren Hill has when it comes to just like the upper echelon of like wealth and connections to have the space to not do anything. Because I think realistically, I think with Lauren, like, we have to admit that she needs the money, and that like if you didn't, you wouldn't be touring. And I think with
Right.
Andre, because of the way he set things up and the connections he's made, right or wrong,
Right.
he doesn't have to worry about that. So I think there is some peace in that. I don't know his full life, and I don't know what struggles he's had to deal with in this break that he's taken,
Mm-hmm.
but there is space to say, hey, like, yeah, he's had it a little easier, or it's just a different experience. And I know I
Mm-hmm.
haven't dug deep into the break that he's had, but I know like he needed time to really just like fall back in love, I think, with music, and he felt very jaded from the
Mm-hmm.
music industry, and then like just all of that, and just maybe burnt out from putting out good music. Even though we think everything he put out is great, I think he has always been his toughest critic, and so I think it was just like maybe difficult for him to like feel motivated. And as a creative, you have those times where you just don't feel like making nothing. um
Okay.
and I think with Andre, the difference with him and Lauren is he's kind of been vulnerable in his own ways, and like hasn't been like really just like entitled about it. He's just like, hey, this is how I'm feeling, this is what's been going on. Then you got Lauren coming up in here repeatedly being late, okay, choosing to
And we're
not.
not talking 10, 15 minutes.
No, we're talking
Hours.
2 to 3 hours late. You don't do rehearsals for real. You're not doing sound checks for real. And like, it's weird who society decides to protect. I think we
Mm-hmm.
like, especially in the black community, we tend to protect toxic ideologies and things instead of like giving accountability. Like, I know I've experienced that in my life dealing with making others accountable, but it's hard to when they're like an elder like Lauren is. Maybe we find that like
Mm-hmm.
toxic relationship of like, well, she's giving us great stuff, but like, just because she's giving us great stuff doesn't mean she's up to not up for critique. Doesn't mean we can't
No.
say, hey, like, I kind of spent a lot of money on this, and maybe a babysitter and maybe like time off. Could you please come on at a decent time because I have to work tomorrow? Like, it's
God forbid.
consideration. Yeah, it's like one of my biggest pet peeves is not having consideration. And I feel like that's the difference between Lauren and Andre, because Lauren, you're not being considerate. We haven't got another album. and you're not coming on time to stuff. But then Andre, after all this time, comes with a beautiful album that's just so well done and so intentional, and it makes you want to wait the next 10 years before you get another one, because
Absolutely.
you know you're going to get good work. So that's how I feel about it. I didn't know I felt that strongly, but that's how I feel about it.
No, everything that you said is so poignant, and the point that I want to touch on that you said in the beginning was in regards to Lauren having a kind of, maybe potentially, we don't know her finances, but potentially needing to tour for the money, as opposed to Andre not having to, due to his connections that he still has, all that money that he made with Outkast. Like, they were swimming in it. Like, I'm sure that money is very long. So, the fact that, she may not have access to those royalties and things like that, decisions that she may have made as as Lauryn Hill, the person, maybe not the artist, that caused, those ties to sever, that may not have had, she may not have the wealth that she probably should. I have a couple more comments that I wanted to make in regards to artistry, because you did comment on it is a beautiful album. I've really just skimmed through it. I haven't listened to everything because it's the flute, which is cool.
Yeah.
I'm not listening to a lot of flute music, but what I will say about artistry, and Lauryn Hill is also an artist in every sense of the word. She's just unfortunately there's two kinds of selfish artists. Andre and Lauren. Lauren is the kind of selfish artist to where she feels you shouldn't even dare question me because of my ability and because of my legacy and things like that. And Andre is the kind of selfish artist, which I love, where it's like, I'm going to make whatever I want to make because I can. And people have their gripes with either side. I understand people's frustration with Andre because it's like, there was this, there's this long wait. It's not like he was teasing music or anything. He's not pulling a Rihanna or SZA, making you think that you're going to get this album that's never going to come out.
Yeah.
Like, he's just been doing him, playing, like we said in the last episode, playing the pan flute around Brooklyn and all around. Like, minding his business.
Yeah.
Like, he does not owe anything to anyone. Nobody wants to really accept that, but that's the truth. He's done the work. His like you said, he can bank on that legacy. And also, if you've watched the GQ interview that he did for GQ magazine, he was just like, yo, I just don't really have anything to talk about right now. He's like, I'm old, I'm just chilling, like, I don't have no raps right now, and that's okay. I feel like something that a lot of people are missing, it may not be intentional, but it probably is, the amount of samples that will come out of this album are probably like, so it's like the next 10-15 years are all going to be samples from this album, which we've kind of left the sample era. We could have we really need to do, we're going to be doing a hip-hop episode because I have a lot to talk about the current state of hip-hop and stuff. And sampling really is a lost art, but there are still some producers that really truly sample, because like you have some songs that it's just like you took the whole chorus and hook and then just added on a couple new verses. Like, that's not a new song, but the amount of samples that will come out of this album are going to be out of this world insane, and everybody's going to be feeling stupid for being upset. But also, just to defend Andre 3000 one time, because he really truly is one of my favorite people. He has rapped in the past like 25 years. He hasn't not rapped. If you listen to, what's his name, James Blake, he rapped on one of his tracks from like 3 years ago. And that whole verse is such an incredible verse. Like, he's like, this verse is kind of heady, I hate heady shit. He just like is going in for like 32 bars. Like, he still raps. Like, you just gotta look for it, So, I get it. I understand people wanted that from him. He ain't got nothing to talk about right now. He's like, you want me to talk about my back pain? You want me to talk about
Yes, actually, I want to relate. I want to hear.
That's true. I'm sure a lot of us would. But I don't know. I give him grace. I feel like he can do no wrong. He's also an incredible actor, which a lot of people haven't checked in. So it's like, listen, he's an artist by every sense of the word. Like, he goes so fully into every project that he does. One thing that he was in the past 5 years, it's called Dispatches from Elsewhere, and he is phenomenal in it. I'm amazed that he didn't win an Emmy for it. He's so incredible and so vulnerable. And if you like Andre 3000 and you support him, then you should watch that show. It's a little hard to catch it now because it was on like AMC, but he was so incredible in that show and so funny. And yeah, he can do no wrong in my eyes. I don't care. He can play the flute until the end of time, and I don't complain. because he's not setting obligations and, getting people to expect X, Y, and Z from him. He appears when he wants to and he leaves whenever he wants to.
Exactly. And like
people don't like autonomy.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Like you know how I feel about Lauren. I talked about it last week. And I don't like people who don't consider others, especially when fans are literally supporting your career as of right. They are making sure your bills are paid. Like, independent or not, struggle or not, industry conspiracy or not, as of right now, them buying these tickets are making sure you and your kids have a decent, maybe like suburban life. Please stop acting like you're entitled to be rude. Like, it really bothers me. Like, it really does. There's a difference between like having autonomy over your work and creativity and just being a jerk and not considering others fully to the point where it's like, okay, like these people really do care. Like, let me just try, like it bothers me. So yeah, I could go on all day about her, but
you trust me, we could do a whole second round, of what we didn't get to touch on in the first one. But I just wanted to talk about it because it has been going off. Give me 1 second. I'm just checking in. Okay, so here's where it gets a little, maybe we might be out of touch. I don't know how much we talked about. Don't do that. Sorry.
You good.
When we first had recorded, we talked a little bit about Taylor Swift and that man, Maddie.
Oh, yeah. Didn't they break up, though?
Right. They broke up. That's over. Now, she has a new boyfriend, the football player.
Oh, yeah. Homeboy.
Don't ask me what team, but it has been fed to me relentlessly. Like,
really?
It's just, I don't know about you, but it has not left my timeline since they started being seen together, like, at dinner and stuff. So she's been at, like, every game. Like, they go together real bad, apparently.
Dang.
So, exactly, I know. Yeah, they go together real. She's, like, the football girlfriend now. Like, wears the hood, like, the Letterman and the...
No one thinks this is weird? Like, no one thinks, like, her hopping from relationship is just a little toxic? No one...
Listen, I've been friends with serial monogamists, okay? So I can't fault them. It's just, I have no comment on that. Do you?
I'm being called out. I might be a serial monogamist.
Oh. Not, hey, Kettle.
That might be another episode. Maybe
hey, Kettle.
Dang.
Uh-oh.
I'm the kettle and I'm black.
But you know what?
Okay.
But you know what?
You know what?
At least you caught it.
And I'm going to talk about it in therapy. But yes, continue.
But yes, serial monogamy, neither here nor there.
Yeah.
This is the new man of the hour. And like, even the NFL, like, official accounts have been, like, tapped into. Because, I mean, Taylor Swift's one of the biggest celebrities in the world, Yeah. So if she's at the game, it's no one's going to talk about anything else. And she's been in, like, every game. Mm-hmm. And so due to everything that happened with that last man, Maddie, whatever his name was, I can't think of it now. It's
Healy.
Not important. Healy, thank you. Oh, I was never going to get there. And him being... every sense of the word a bigot.
Yeah.
Saying heinous things for like years and years because that was dug up and brought to the surface. Kind of like half-heartedly apologized about it. After the Swifties went through that, right? They're like, we are gonna dig and comb through every piece of this man's media. Like SEAL Team 6 investigations, like and lo and behold, they actually didn't find anything. He's actually quite sweet and like a little bit of a himbo. So I've been seeing like his old tweets, and they're just like kind of like endearing and cute, and it's just like from like 2011, like they went deep, like probably like keyword searched any heinous word you could probably think of, and nothing. I'm impressed.
Wow, congrats.
So as far as we can tell, seems to be a stand-up dude. So I mean, good for her. I guess it'll be over in a month, and I don't care. But I just thought that I would talk about it because it's anyone, at least on Twitter for like the past week of the time that we're filming this, like it's all like people are quoting like his old tweets and they're all just so like normal and funny. He's like, oh, I passed my test today. Like, it's cute. He's like, I love Denny's. Like, he's just a dude. He's just a man. So I'm happy for them. I don't care at all. I wish everyone would shut up. I really like it's not like I don't care because I don't care about her, because I don't, but also like
Yeah.
if I were famous, I wouldn't want every single relationship I was in to be under such a microscopic lens like that. So I feel for the girl, and I would like her to
Yeah.
just be a serial monogamous in peace, because everybody else gets to do that. Why is it
Mm.
that every single partner has to be, I wish she could just live her life.
Mm.
I do.
I wish that for her
But
too. Yeah.
yeah, any thoughts on his name is Travis Kelsey. I don't know if you're
Right.
familiar.
I remember him cuz I remember he was dating that black woman, and like people were really trying to make him
Yes.
like a symbol off of that, like, oh my god, like he likes black women and they look cute and stuff. And I was like, oh, okay,
Yeah, they
cool.
swore he was down with the swirl, which he might have been at one point or another. But
Yeah.
like, she had her own little. I don't know if you follow, but had her own little like podcast, like kind of talking about how like to basically talking directly to Taylor, like what he did to me, he'll do to you, girl. Yeah, so he's not
I mean,
a bigot, but he's still a
he's a
man. So
man. So you gotta
I'm
assist and
sure.
straight. You gotta take it with a grain of salt. I don't know.
Yeah, I only give him so much grace. Like, congratulations, you didn't use any slurs from the years 2011 to 2016.
The bars
I'm
in the
proud of you.
ground. The bars in the ground. I don't know. Like,
Congrats.
I feel like I definitely agree with you that I feel bad that we have to like, or that Taylor and him, that they have to like deal with people literally going through their old tweets, especially when you're a kid and you're
Yeah.
younger, because
Yeah.
it's just a lot. But this is kind of, especially with Taylor, I think she definitely signed up for this and has wanted to be at this
Hey.
like pedigree. But also humans deserve to have like space to be humans. Yeah, I think I'm really just like, wow, because not only have I not heard anything about this, but like it has not shown up on my
I'm so
timeline
happy
at
for
all.
you.
And like it's crazy because like I remember that first week of them dating, I saw it, especially when Issa Rae was like, I don't care about this because like I don't.
It's
And
true.
it was crazy because I haven't seen nothing about it since. So for you to say that it was all up on your timeline, I'm like, wow, my
Yeah.
algorithm is like locked. You know what I'm saying?
It must be what I interact with. But they just really think I care. Yeah, but a lot of his tweets are just genuinely funny because
Yeah.
they're so innocuous and so simple. Like, he's a very simple man. And we love a himbo. So yeah, I just thought that out. I don't know.
Shout
I
out
don't
to
know why I know
him.
so much. Shout out to Travis for now.
Yeah, for now.
We're keeping you at an arm's length because you are still a man, and men will be men. But the last topic, which I feel that we could probably do an entire episode on, and we may potentially do an entire episode on this in the future, depending on the more stuff that comes out. But it's coming, Diddy. The Diddy situation,
Yeah.
not surprising
At all.
but it's still it's just as upsetting. Like,
Mm-hmm.
why is almost everyone in the music industry like horrendously evil?
I have no idea. I think like I had seen you watched the morning show on Apple TV
No.
with Jennifer Aniston and Steve Carell was in it at one point.
Mhm.
But it's amazing, and like there's one quote that Nicole Bahari like she had said in the show.
Love her.
You said what?
Love her.
I love her so much, right? Like she's so good. She's killing it this season. Like
Incredible. Okay, I need to watch that.
it's so good. And so one thing she was saying in one of the episodes, it was just like talking about how power changes the chemicals in your brain. And like
Must.
and it makes sense. And I'm like, when you're in these spaces of like immense power and money and greed, like you can't help but change. And I think some people just already have it in them based on whatever trauma they dealt with or whatever. But like he's always been that person where you're just like, oh, like I'm not getting the warm and fuzzies. And you see how he treats people or how he treated people on like Making the Band and like
Yeah, no, he was horrible.
he was actually terrible, and it's not
Yeah.
surprising, but it just makes me sad because it's like I couldn't imagine what Cassie went through. I don't want to, and I feel for her because it's like she's probably drugged up allegedly, probably like allegedly dealing with so much beating, and like for him to settle that civil suit in
a
less
day.
than 24 hours, it's so telling. Like you could say whatever you want, but like they had to have really good evidence to be like, yeah, like you should get this 30 million. One, I think she
One
probably
thing
got more
about me,
money.
no. Yeah, you finish your thought. I'm gonna hold my thought.
Yeah, no, you're good. Like, I think she probably got more than 30 million, and I think she has so much evidence. And I'm just praying for her to keep getting the healing she needs, because that's just, it was trash. I couldn't even read through it because it just was a lot.
No, I have a friend that said that they read all 35 documents of that
Mm.
case, and I don't have the stomach for it. I still to this day don't know the ins and outs of the R. Kelly cases because I can't handle it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, you said in regards to him settling that case in almost less than 24 hours. One thing about me, if I have immense wealth, like probably he's a billionaire, either was at one point or
Yeah.
currently is. I'm fighting you with every ounce of my money. If I didn't
Yeah.
do it, what we could take this for decades. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? You know he has lawyers on lawyers. Like the fact that it was just
Mm-hmm.
closed and like, I'm sorry, but whatever they said he did it. And the part that's really been like making me actually physically ill is all of these clips that are coming out of all of these artists or celebrities or in any like realm of like they're just black celebrities that have all been like, yep, stay away from Diddy's house, like yeah, da-da. So it's like everybody knows, just the way everybody knew
Mm-hmm.
with R. Kelly, just the way everybody knows with like the stuff that happens in the film industry, like everyone knows, and it just makes me like sick to my stomach that people are silenced or that people
Mm.
are blacklisted for speaking out, and I hate it so much. It's so horrible. It's so disgusting. But
Yeah.
every dog has his day, and I really do hope that he has his Bill Cosby, R. Kelly,
Yeah.
whomever moment. I really do.
Yeah, I
If
think it's
everything is
coming.
true.
I think it's coming because I think in the era that he was kind of like really visible, there was like
Mm-hmm.
more recordings. There were cell phones. It wasn't like back in the day, like Cosby's
Yeah.
day and stuff, where it's like kind of, oh, I don't know, blah blah. But like I think people got stuff on him for sure. And yeah, like you can't keep living like that and expect to make it. Maybe in this life,
No.
but I don't know.
Them skeletons are coming out.
They're
And there's a lot
bad.
of crazy conspiracies being thrown around regarding to Kim, his ex-wife, the
Yeah.
mother of his children.
Ooh.
If they can prove it,
I've
that
gone
documentary
down.
is gonna be chilling.
It's gonna be crazy. I went down a couple rabbit
If they
holes
can prove
concerning
it.
that, and I was like, I gotta stop because this is too much for my little eyes to see. I gotta stop.
Yeah. But yeah, that was our media segment. That was I'm
Yay!
sure we could dive more into Diddy on another day, but
No, absolutely. Thank you so much for that. And it's just so interesting that I feel like a lot of the topics were based on cis straight men, and that is our topic for today. We're gonna dive into femininity and the manosphere and how femininity plays a part in that, and the ways that we feel, or I can't speak for you, but I'm speaking for myself, that men are just trying to push away femininity to create these spaces where they're just angry at this, so and at femininity and women. But yeah. So Marz, what's your experience with the manosphere? How did you come into contact with it? How do you feel about, especially the black manosphere? How do you feel about that?
truly against my will. It was always by force anytime I had to come into contact with that side of the internet, because I guess if we're only speaking in regards to like the black manosphere, because the white men, I don't even any of
Yeah.
this is in one ear out the other.
Yeah.
But when it comes to our own community and the leaders of these spaces of the manosphere, the biggest one, Kevin James, rest in piss. Fresh and Fit kind of died off as well.
Mm-hmm.
They were pretty toxic. I just I regard them as incels, and like that area of the internet is so like far removed from me. But what I have been forced to interact with, I mean, I have only really interacted or seen things that they put out through the women that I follow. So there's a lot of female creators, mainly on TikTok and things like that I follow, that just clown these dudes day in and day out.
Yeah.
Like, and I love them for it. There's one who's like who kind of made a platform off of it. Drew F. Wallow, if you're
Oh
familiar with her.
yeah. Uh-huh.
She is everything. She is on their neck anytime, any opportunity she gets. And that's about as much interaction as I want to have with the Manosphere is through women making fun of them.
Yeah. For sure. I think that's like the healthiest thing because doing this research, I had to take breaks because they were just saying really just stuff that just was so untrue and is so based in misogyny. And it was just sad because a lot of this stuff is hurting themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So
they don't even know.
They don't even
get it.
They don't get it, and it's actually truly sad. So today we're gonna like really dig into this, and we're gonna start with acknowledging the fact that education of men in general is dwindling. So it's like, in the school systems and even like in colleges and stuff, I think we'll see kind of more of like groups that are kind of empowering more of women or people of color to like, succeed or get in these spaces. But you don't really see much for men because, of course, like we all know that, of course, being white and being a male, there's more privileges that are afforded to you. But what we're also seeing is that we're not educating them properly. So there is becoming like a gap between the demographics of who is getting these higher paying jobs and salaries as compared to men. Like this, it's changing. And in that response, men, especially I think black men in the community, they're not understanding why. So I think what I realized through doing this research is we have to really dig into like, yes, the ways in their errors and like what they're doing wrong, but we do also have to acknowledge the ways that we are hurting them and hindering their progress by either enabling them or not holding them accountable to like, to acknowledge these parts of themselves, or also not educating them. We kind of coddle them as a society in the black community and outward. We don't really promote them being educated in a way that helps them to not have these thoughts. So through some of my research, I found that male students are more likely to drop out or to not graduate. Especially when it comes to young black students, it's really an issue because the school to prison pipeline is so strong. Especially in the black community, we can acknowledge how like in prisons there is like substantially way more black men that are incarcerated for petty crimes or smaller crimes as compared to other demographics or white men. And it's really sad because like through this we can kind of see how like this is related to Reconstruction era, right, where like after slavery, instead of having like just being able to have like enslaved people, you use black codes, you use codes in order to arrest people, to get them in your prisons in order to then have them do this work. And in some weird ways, I feel like the Manosphere is perpetuating that. But as a society, we don't really see it because it's like we kind of go along the lines of the white patriarchal system of survival. Like, okay, like you want to be the man, you want to provide, you want to be a part of this nuclear family, but you're not understanding how it doesn't leave room for men to have emotion, to have wants and needs outside of just being a provider. But we and how we like kind of put so much effort into that. But instead of men being like, like this is a weird system, like maybe we should dissect it, all of that is projected onto women and specifically black women. So we're going to keep talking about it. In education system, young girls are surpassing boys in schooling. There's also like a big developmental gap that's happening because like a lot more boys are just thrown into like in school suspension or out school suspension or into like schools that are primarily for kids who misbehave, and not so much like public school system's already a mess, but we're not really saying, hey, like what does this kid need? What intentionally do we do to help this kid, instead of just being like, hey, like if you're not doing well, you're not keeping up, then you're of no use to me. So we have to acknowledge that there is a massive like policy blind spot when it comes to educating young boys into like being able to like keep up with the trends. Because if you think about it, like everything's gearing more into like coding, AI, like stuff that takes more intellect than a trade.
Mm-hmm.
And not saying there's always, because Twitter always want to have this argument about, oh, get a trade, trades are important, and they are. But what do you do when there's a society where the gap is widening and not
Mm-hmm.
everybody needs a trade anymore? Like
Right.
you could just buy or like hire someone to do that service. You don't always need that person to do that. What happens when you have labor that isn't so body intensive that makes you 3 times more money? I think black women get it and they understand it and they are
Yeah.
pushing themselves to be in in these circles and in these spaces and careers where they don't have to depend on anybody. And I think there is some disdain because there's no acknowledgement of like black women. We know as a black being black and a woman, they're not two of the worst things you could be, but it's gonna be hard for you. It's gonna be hard for you. So we know, hey, like we have to make sure we have like something to like fall back on. It's harder for us. We can't just rest on any type of privilege, to be honest. So you kind of have to be like, okay, like I'm gonna make sure I'm set. But instead of like acknowledging like, like okay, this person worked this hard. What are the systems that made them feel they had to do this and fight so hard or have these barriers when it comes to relationships and ways of living? They just blame black women and just like, y'all are making it hard for me. I can't be this. I can't be that. Why can't it be like the old days, like our granddads and all this stuff? Mind you,
Inflation.
inflation, and it was toxic as well. Like your grandma wasn't happy. Your grandma was having to fight the other family that your grandpa might have had across the country. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not.
Not even around the corner. These men were dogs. You know what I'm saying? Like
No, they were terrible.
Nana stayed with your pop because divorce wasn't an option. Okay, women were killing their husbands back then. You really
No,
want
they
to go
were.
back? We could go
They
back.
were.
We could go back.
They were. Have you seen those like Twitter threads where like some people find out their granddad had like a whole or dad had like a whole other family at the funeral?
Yeah, up the street. Yeah.
It's funny, but it's not. It's really sad because it's just like
It's really sad.
yeah, it's just like we're trying to, or like I feel like a lot of us in the system of patriarchy are trying to like climb and claw our way to like being the best when you know you will never make it. We might not, but I'm telling you now, if you are not white, cis, straight, and a male, it's not happening.
Stop.
It's just not, and there's some freedom in that. But we're gonna talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna talk about it. So there's a couple things that that this failed education system has caused. A wage gap between men and women has lessened. So women are getting more educated, they're getting better salaries. But the class wage gap has significantly widened. With my partner, I kind of joke around, like, cause like when we go out to eat, and she really like, she's like, I want to eat out, on a ball. I'm like, okay, boo, like, okay. She be ordering everything, like,
Not
those,
the 48 oysters.
You know what I'm saying? Like, when you like see them, they're talking about how like black women like they spend money like drug dealers, like be like at the restaurant, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna have this, and I'm like, what? No, right. Because
down, it's
right?
so bad.
And it kind of makes me think of like how like I feel like sometimes men, they can't do that, right? It's like because of the jobs that are afforded to them, because of the education that they had or didn't have, there's gonna be a gap, and there becomes animosity. I think it was in New York Times, there was an article that came up about how like there's a lot of working class women who are taking care of their male partners, and like their male partners are like either like resentful of their wives for like having better jobs, and like these women will like have like really good paying jobs, but they're working hard at work, they're coming home and cooking, they're taking care of their kids, and their husband isn't contributing because they feel that I'm a man and that's just what it is, and stuff isn't
Just a
working out for
warm
me.
body. Just useless. My mother was one of these women. You know what I'm saying? Like, had this been the olden times, she would have been putting elderroot or whatever it was in his coffee more and more over time until he just fell over and passed away from the gout. I don't know all the specific terms and medical, implications.
Yeah.
But that was their exact dynamic. She was the primary breadwinner. In fact,
Yeah.
when they divorced, she had to pay him alimony.
Ooh.
Like, she would work like a dog day in and day out, come home, take care of all three of her children. Like, no, and then there's just this man.
Yeah, just there. It's
Just
literally
there.
there. And it's just crazy because like our society has put all this pressure on women to like hold all these things that don't really ring true because they're doing things that we didn't have to do like 20, 30 years ago. And like it was just so interesting because it just really brought me a lot of pain to see these women like, they couldn't even say their full name for real because they still didn't want to embarrass their partner. And like their whole time they going through all this stuff like, and this man isn't contributing, or if he is, like he's like making her feel bad about it. You know what I'm saying? And it just is like, wow, like I think men, straight men especially, and straight women especially, I think they really have to like assess that relationship and the ways that they both contribute to it and the ways they need to stop, because it's unhealthy and it's creating a whole lot of mess. So yeah, more people are now single as well, so they don't need men in that way to like be the provider. It's just different, and I think there is like a different like feeling of like, hey, I was supposedly needed. I've been groomed from a kid to think that when I'm an adult, I'm gonna have a wife who does this. I'm gonna be able to do this and this and this. So it has to be hard to know that like you're not gonna be needed in that way. There's got to be some like grief in that process, but also I need there to be actual logical thinking and understanding and being like, hey, like things are different. Maybe this isn't really how life could be. I can make it different. How are some other ways that I could be a great partner to this person? If you do have a partner who is subscribing to that same stuff, then I'm like, okay, I can't help you. That's where it's toxic. But I feel like if you, like you're a man and you're like, hey, like, this doesn't have to be, I think it's way more freeing, So there's that. So yeah, so those are some of like the key things that I think are leading up to this whole like Black manosphere, especially because of like the things that like we've experienced as a community that we are told is important when it really is just another system. It's really not that important. So yeah, we're gonna get into some key players. What have you heard of Kevin Samuels, friend? How did you come across him? Who is Kevin Samuels to you?
I mean, nobody's really coming across him anymore unless you're at the cemetery. Yeah, and I'll dance on his grave. But outside of that, yeah, he was definitely like, he was putting up numbers as far as like the misogynists of that era. He had a legion of fatherless men under his wing, like, and women. It was startling, like the numbers. Like he was making quite a bit of money off of stuff that he himself was not even following. Yeah, so I will only ever know him as a hypocrite and a piece of hot garbage. What about you?
So Kevin Samuels, he like, I wasn't fully in tune with him, but just from stuff that I'd heard and snippets you see on Twitter. And I just remember being like, why is he so mean? Like, the things he would do to embarrass Black women, darker
vile.
Black women especially, and the way that people were dogpiling onto it, or even if they weren't, just being like, well, he has a point. What is the point? Like, it was just so sad because it was just like, it really showed you who your people were. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
it showed you like, okay, if you're really siding with him, we gotta talk, because I
Yeah.
can't really like talk to you because you must not like me. Because if you like him, I know you don't like me.
No, I know what you're saying in when I'm not around.
You know what I'm saying? So it was just
Yeah.
kind of like, it was really strange. And the deeper I got into him and learning about him, and just the whole, basically his own demise, it just was like really crazy, because I'm just like, wow, like it was just hurt people, and he was talking to hurt people and hurting them, but also getting the love from them. It was toxic. It was toxic.
It
So
was crazy.
it's crazy because like Kevin Samuels initially, he wasn't even really like into this, like he was more so of like a really big conservative, and he would
Yeah.
do like he first was, he thought he was a fashion influencer, so he would like um there's videos of him.
Is the fashion in the room with us right now?
um like you said, fashion in the room with what?
Is the fashion in the room with us right now?
No, no. No, he like I don't know. He just was like really like he thought that he could show men how to dress. So if you look back at the videos, he's like wearing like
Suits
like just
on
really
suits.
suits, basic. It was before he had the nice suits. He had like really basic outfits and stuff, and like he's like, this is how you should act, and this is how you court a lady, and just very like corny stuff, because he's just trying to get started. Which everybody's trying to get started, but he slowly transitioned into more conservativeness. So he would like go on different podcasts and talk about how black men need to work more, and this, that, and the third. And then I think he got into his own thing, and he realized like essentially the grift that he could be a part of, which was the red pill community. So the red pill community is like something that was started.
Cash money's at.
That's where it is. As far as the black side of the red pill community, it kind of started in like 2009, and basically right. And so it's basically like a bunch of men, here and there, just talking about like how they feel men should be treated, how women are just doing all this and that. And if you think about it, 2010 I think is when we had a big feminist movement when it came to media, and like, because I think of Beyonce album and like and all that. So yeah, like I think that was around the time where feminism was really becoming a thing in a way that men hadn't experienced, especially coming from like the toxicity of like hip hop and women, how they were portrayed in the early 2000s. It was like a transition, and I think men were like, hey, hold up, women have thoughts. Black women have thoughts. Like, I have thoughts of this. And
why is this bitch speaking so much? Like, what the heck?
Why they saying no? You know what I'm saying?
They can do that?
No, literally. So basically, like, I'm not as familiar in the full transition into what he ended up being before his passing, but he basically sold himself as a guru with no real credentials. No one really knew who he was. He did the style, branding, and stuff like that, but then he turned his brand into like a high value man. That was like his thing. He had a description.
Oh my God. Every time I hear it, like I
haven't heard it in so long, and so when I
so
hear it,
long.
It was crazy. It was basically a brand that was essentially just attacking black women. The argument that people that watch him will say is that he did call out men that weren't doing anything. So he would talk to men on the phone, when they would call in, and he would be like, hey, like, you don't have a job, you don't have this, you're broke, blah, blah, blah. Why should this woman do this? So he was, I guess, the quote unquote voice of reason when he wanted to, but he was still perpetuating very toxic narratives that at the end of the day just put women, and even black women and black trans women, in really like terrible situations and unsafe situations, because you're putting these thoughts in these men's head. He claimed that guys mainly wanted women who were, quote, fit, feminine, friendly, cooperative, and submissive. He would dismiss single black women over 35 as leftovers, whose unrealistic desire for the, quote, the high value man would doom them to a lonely death. So that's kind of like a kind of intro to just the mindset he had, and like what these people were eating up and actually saying there was a point to. Um, he also believed randomly, like this was random. He also believed that high value men didn't date nurses or women in the healthcare field, which I thought was really weird. Like,
I do remember that. I don't know
right?
what that was about.
It was weird. I was like, did he get scorned by somebody? Like, cause it just felt
For sure.
very, very like targeted.
It's pointed. It's pointed.
Yeah, it's pointed. So yeah, so he basically was like, a conservative. But like, I think the thing that was so interesting about Kevin Samuels, like you said, was like a lot of broken people were listening to him. People that didn't have fathers, people that like were really lost when it came to guidance from an elder, that they probably could have gotten if they went to therapy. Um,
Yeah, you need to go talk to that lady.
yeah, like sit down, let's talk, like because it was wild. I watch a YouTuber. Her name is Kimberly Foster. She's really great. She's been in the game for a while, and she talked to somebody who was a Kevin Samuels fan and listened to him avidly. And he seemed pretty progressive on the face value at first, right? Like, oh, like I respect women because he's from Cali. I respect women, yada yada yada. But then as you start to get into it, and she's like asking him questions about Kevin Samuels and stuff, he was talking about the ways that women have like degraded him, black women have degraded him or made him feel less than. And Kimberly was like, well, didn't Kevin Samuels say the same thing? And he was like, yeah. But then he was like, but like it's just different when it comes from him. This. And I didn't have a father. I grew up with my mother, single mother, and she was mean and blah blah blah. And when it came down to it, it really was just like he needed therapy. He needed somebody to hold his emotions, and he needed that space. And like I think deep down, these men know this, and that's why they're able to build this community, because they feel seen. They feel like someone is understanding them, and like, hey, like you see the pain that I feel living in this world and not feeling like I have any power. But I think the newsflash is, hey, we all feel like that. Some of us feel like it worse because of the marginalized communities that we occupy. We don't get to go around demeaning people just because we're hurt. We could, but we don't. Because we know that it's not that person's fault, it's the system's fault.
No.
So, yeah, that was a lot that happened with that. Yeah, so he was our first person. The next group we're going to talk about is Fresh and Fit. They're YouTubers. Their names were Walter Weeks and Myron Gaines. They have about like 1 million subscribers. Well, they did. They were super misogynist, and they encouraged the objectification of women.
Yeah.
It's crazy because I think I spoke with you about this earlier, Marz. They reminded me of the dudes that are from Orlando. Like a lot of dudes that I feel like I came in contact with. Like I feel like Fresh and Fit were like kind of like those dudes that had like really high expectations for women but weren't really doing much, living with their mothers, like very much like toxic energy. Like I felt that like from back home. How would you feel? Do you feel that?
I would agree. I very rarely interact with straight men at this point of living in Orlando, but the ones that are in my life are like nothing like that, of course, because they wouldn't be in my life.
Yeah.
But I totally see what you're saying, because the few interactions that I was forced to have with conversations with men that are like that, short, balding, they just automatically expect that, like, they not only expect, but feel that they deserve, like, an Instagram model looking woman, a woman that, looks like is out of their league, essentially. So yeah, they're super like the whole like, oh, if you have a certain body count, or whatever they say. I really don't even know. I don't interact with men like that, but I know exactly the type of man that you're talking about. Yeah. Under 5'9", there's a bald patch right there, like it's right on the top. Yeah, they have nothing to offer other than their voice, and they all just speak into their little echo chamber.
Yeah.
On their side of the internet.
And that's it. I mean, yeah, I think that kind of just sums it up beautifully. They definitely reminded me of men like that from Orlando. But they also, through their toxicity, they promoted a lot of rape culture, which was just really, It was just a lot because they were really invalidating women's boundaries. Very much like, oh, she says she doesn't want this, but she does. And that's definitely perpetuating where, hey, you're like invading this person's boundary. It's sick. It's not fair because, you know, if someone who was queer tried to come onto you like that and invade your boundary, all of a sudden it's like straight men's rights. But when it comes to women, they don't really mean it. This, that, the third, they untrustworthy. It's just very disgusting. So they would perpetuate that. They really wanted to humble women. I think there were the men that like really were like, you need to know that you're not shit at all. You know, like they were like Kevin Samuels, but for the younger generation, the generation that we have now. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So they were obsessed with the notion that women have some sexual leverage when the whole patriarchal system teaches how women are to be used for either sexual uses or uses that fulfill the man. So basically, like, you're saying, hey, they're trying to use this against you, but really, like, they're only taught really, hey, like, my whole body is meant for a man. Like, that's not fair. Like, that's not, you know, that just like denotes everything that you're saying, that they're like trying to use you for leverage. Like, it's just not true. So yeah, it was a lot researching this. It was just because it's like, you know, when there's people that are talking and they're so dumb that you don't want the dumbness to like rub off on you.
Yes.
And you get scared and you're just like, I gotta pause it. I gotta pause it because this is not good for my health.
Yeah.
My head started hurting because I'm like, it's literally so hypocritical. It don't make sense.
No.
And then it's like they're in an echo chamber and people are like, yeah, it makes sense. And they keep getting views and they keep getting money. And it was a lot. So yeah, that was a lot. We're going to talk about the downfalls of these men though. That's the fun part. Well, first we'll talk about their like hypocrisy first, and then we'll get into their downfall. So first, they both were definitely on both sides, but different sides of the grift of the Black Manosphere. Of just like taking advantage of men and boys who didn't get the love that they needed growing up, and so they're looking for someone to just literally say the things that they're feeling, but no, they can't say out loud.
Absolutely.
So with Kevin Samuels, he has been divorced twice. He had an adult daughter, which he would definitely get on women for having. He would get mad if they were divorced and all this. Like, he would judge them for that. He was conservative. And eventually he ended up dying of hypertension at the age of 56 on May 5th, 2022. He complained of chest pain and collapsed on top of a 32-year-old woman who was a nurse.
And not only a nurse, she was a big lady.
She was a big woman. And he was so fat phobic. That's one thing we didn't touch on. But he would really always talk about women's weight and even men's weight too, and how that, you know, you need to be healthy, this and the third. Come to find out, this man was drinking Red Bull before he passed and decided I'm sorry, it's not funny. Not funny.
I'm sorry.
That's a whole other. We talked about this last week of fat phobia. Like, it kills me that people who are skinny get to walk around and they are unhealthy, and no one says anything about their habits.
No one says a word.
But when you're bigger and you're literally just existing, everybody trying to watch out for your health. But this man was literally drinking Red Bulls at 56 before having intercourse. I don't understand it. I don't.
You know,
get
he popped a pill too.
Exactly, he did. I forgot about that. So it's just the irony of it. Like, it's funny.
It's
but
almost
it's
poetic.
sad. It's poetic. That's the word I was missing. It's poetic because it's just like you went around literally degrading people for existing in a society they can't control, and you literally couldn't uphold any of the things you were selling. If anything, he just literally was doing it for $1 bill, and I really want his people that still listen to him, because I know they're out there.
Yes, and they're mighty.
Like, at the time of his death, he had 1.74 million subscribers. Wow. Y'all need to know he was using y'all. He was using y'all. He don't care about y'all. He never did. And all of that, using him and all this money, he still needed to go fund me for his funeral expenses. So we need to put light on that as well. Okay?
Almost had to bury him loose.
Stop! gonna do this. We're not gonna do this. Okay, I'm back. So, moral of the story is that there are gonna be people out there who could either be the change makers or they could try to grift off of the pain of others. And I believe in karma. That's all I have to say. So that's that on Kevin. Fresh and Fit. So Fresh and Fit, they had an interesting time. Myron Gaines allegedly had been rumored to be queer after pictures
Which
of
one
him.
was that?
That was the light skinned one. I think that's his name, right? Was that Walter?
I don't know.
Doesn't matter.
One of them. Okay. Period.
One of them. After old pictures of him were leaked with him that were suggesting like that he was intimate with other men. I like seeing the pictures. They looked like how like men that like to like be around men all the time, but they're straight. It looked chill. It didn't look anything like, oh, this is evidence. But it just was funny to me because it's like you are so homophobic and you're like perpetuating all this stuff, and here you are being rumored to be queer. Like it just was kind of funny, and I think it always comes from inside the house. So
okay,
there's that. Him and Walter, they knew their audience, and they knew that men felt slighted. They felt slighted by women and their progress and felt like it was unfair, and they took advantage of that. And it's really sad because like people, instead of acknowledging that and being upset that, hey, like this guy is probably queer, maybe queer, and he's sitting here trying to influence me to do this, like they didn't see any red flags, but their time did come. Sometime earlier this year, their account got suspended or it got like actually shut down.
So YouTube removed them from whatever their like creator program would be. So meaning none of their videos could be monetized on that platform. I'm sure they exist somewhere on like Patreon or something like that.
Yeah.
But on YouTube, under that name, they can no longer make money.
So yeah, that was a big hit for them. I think they even came out with an apology because they just
did that.
I think they did because I remember they were just confused. They didn't understand what was going on. Like, I think it wasn't surprisingly, which is another discussion we need to have when it comes to like YouTube algorithms and stuff. I don't think they got shut down because of the content they were saying. I think it was based on like another company or another YouTube channel. I think they were like, either trying to shut their stuff down or like it was something dealing with copyright. I don't think it was like anything to do with the actual their content, even though it should have, and it's really toxic. But yeah, so it was interesting to just see how like both of these channels, they found their own demise. One man, he could no longer post ever in this life, and another group, they're losing some of the most money they could make. Like having 1 million subscribers on YouTube, you make a good amount of money, and they're not making any of it, and you have to like go around. Like Patreon makes money, but not like that. Yeah. So it's interesting in like the like poeticness of it and how it ends, but the damage is already done. Like people's minds are not fully like understanding the ways and how toxic this really was, and like it's not so much affecting like the older generations of people that listen, it's affecting the younger generations. Just seeing alarming rates of like young men. I know in the white pill community, the red pill community, like they're seeing this with like young boys and stuff, saying it in classes and stuff like that, of like being rude towards women. And like it's really scary because it's like these kids are going to grow up and perpetuate it even more with the different technologies they learn to use. And so I think it just was like a sad time. And it's crazy because it's kind of past now, and like not as many people like harp on it and talk about it, even though they still, their communities, they still talk. But it's really scary at like the influence that it had, and like how much hurt and damage it's caused to a lot of people, older and younger. How do you feel about the impact that the Black Manosphere has had?
Yes, definitely when it comes to young boys, it's super, super terrifying. Like, there's, like, I mean, it's, like, it shouldn't be a joke, but it is. Like, the thing on, like, Twitter, a lot of people say, like, oh, like, you grow this baby for 9 months, push them out, and they listen to DJ Academics. Like, it's a terrifying thought. For me, every day I think about it, I have no intention of having children, but the thought of them
Mm-hmm.
being fed through that pipeline online into like red pill incel behavior is so terrifying. And it's seen a
Mm-hmm.
lot more with the white boys than I would say the black boys.
Mm-hmm.
But they do still, a lot of them grow up with this disdain of the women that helped raise them, not the men that disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? That caused them to, the women that raised them, the women that look like their mothers, their sisters, they grow up with such disdain because they feel that they're the ones that, they're the reason why their life is the way that it is, or why they don't have as many partners is because, so many women are misandrous and so many women just hate men and feminism is, the devil and blah, 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 because you're supposed to give me sex. You're supposed to, you know what I'm saying? And like,
Mm-hmm.
there's just it
Yeah.
we'll see it a lot more as this generation after us starts to grow. But you're seeing bits and pieces of it. I would say much more in the white spaces, like I said, like these
Mm-hmm.
kids that grew up listening to Andrew Tate and whoever else would be like a predominant voice in the white incel community.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it's horrifying to think about these young black boys growing up and not understanding that the game was rigged against all of us,
Mm.
literally all of us. Like, the patriarchy serves no one
No
unless you're a
one.
white man. It serves no one. And yeah, we figured it out, and we've, like you said, like, we're entering
Mm-hmm.
fields and completing degrees and,
Yeah.
advancing at a rate that is leaving them in the dust. And that even makes them even more resentful and even more, have a disdain for black women because they have advanced so much farther. And there's something that I wanted to talk about. I don't know if it came across your timeline, but it was a video of this woman talking about male flight. And it's similar to white flight,
Hmm.
where when black people moved into certain neighborhoods that were predominantly white, all those white people would flee and leave. So it's called white flight.
Mm-hmm.
This is happening in certain career fields. So, at a certain point, nurses used to be apparently predominantly male. The more women entered that field, the more men left.
Hmm.
It's happening in, apparently in, like, interior design. It used to be a predominantly male dominated field.
Mm.
So women started entering the field, and now it's considered kind of like a frou-frou, like a
Mm-hmm.
home, like Susie Homemaker type of job. Like, it's not taken as seriously as it once was.
Right.
And then, now entering, like you said, in like the more coding era where the trade is now, switched to digital. A lot of, like, I guess the field right now is like 50-50. It's like 50% male,
Mm-hmm.
50% female. But it's just fascinating how once women enter these spaces, it's no longer, taken
Mm.
seriously, or they don't want to be a part of those fields. So they're shooting themselves in the foot after a certain point. Like,
Mm-hmm.
these are the areas that are like booming. And
Yeah.
of course, women are going to gravitate towards like architecture, engineering. Like, these are fields that women are kind of really flooding into now,
Mm-hmm.
and they're leaving them because of the association. So
Mm. Wow, that's
it
really
was just a
layered.
fascinating. Yeah, there's definitely a lot that goes into it, and I didn't fully, like, I'm not fully versed in it, but it's just, it's a
Mm-hmm.
fascinating thought process of there is such a disparity going on, in the black community specifically, and,
Mm-hmm.
in the wage gap of women are becoming the primary breadwinner, yet are still or men feel emasculated by even the dynamic that exists, but are continuously doing nothing to close that gap.
Yeah. Yeah.
It boggles my mind.
Yeah, I think it's like what I've noticed from doing the research and just like things I've noticed through society is like men, when they feel like they're not getting what they were like told they would get or like thought they were
Yes.
entitled to, they feel powerless. They
Yes.
just give up and they're like, hey, like, why should I? Like, I'm not, it's not working out for me. It just doesn't work out. Like, why is this happening to me? Instead of being like, like, what are some ways that I'm the issue? What are some ways that I'm perpetuating this? It's so interesting because it's like, one of the closing thoughts that I had for this is just like, the system is doing this. Like, there is a
Yeah.
system that is telling all of us that if you are not exhibiting these characteristics and don't have these personality traits and don't have this look, this body, that you're irrelevant, that you're nothing, that
Mm-hmm.
you're not worthy
Mm-hmm.
of love or even just acknowledgement that you exist. And we all interpret it in different ways, and the way they interpret it is either anger or like some type of entitlement, and like that gets scary because that contributes in domestic violence. It contributes in men feeling that they could put their hands on a woman because they're angry about things that are happening
Mm-hmm.
in their lives. Like, even in just the last week, we had Keke Palmer and Darius. We had Diddy and Cassie. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think it's a coincidence that whenever men are not getting what they feel like they deserve, especially black men, that they are causing harm.
Yes.
And it's not cool, it's not fair, and it's, if anything, it just like, it really puts who I worry about the most, black trans women, in the most dangerous situations, because it's
Mm-hmm.
like, if you are exhibiting any type of femininity, which people feel that you are, if you are with a trans woman especially, these women are getting killed unalive.
Mm-hmm.
They are getting beat, they're getting burned. It's not fair, it's not right. And if it were to happen to them, they would be upset. They'd want us marching and picketing Black Lives Matter and helping and speaking for them if they were to go because of police brutality or because of like unfair justice. Where's the justice for all the people that support you? Um, so it's really mind boggling. I think there is space for black men to have their emotions acknowledged. They
Yes.
deserve to have a safe space to talk about those emotions, but when those emotions contribute to the harm of black women, whether it's physically, emotionally, mentally, or like career wise, profession wise, you need to sit and evaluate why you have those feelings and not just be like,
Mm-hmm.
it is what it is, that's what I learned. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't make it right. Um, we all have freedom of speech, but there's also consequences for those actions. You can say what you want, but it doesn't mean I can't say nothing back to it. And I think that's why there's male flight. That's
Mm-hmm.
why there's harm done to other people. Because it's like, how dare you question me when like society says I'm not supposed
At
to
the
be
top of the
questioned
food chain. Yeah.
at top of the food chain. So that's how I kind of feel about that, about the Black Manosphere. I want to say that I don't think all men are like this. I don't think all straight cis men are like this. I know a
Of
lot of men
course.
in my life who are really beautiful and great and hold space for my emotions and theirs, and we
Mm-hmm.
learn from each other. And I think it's important that we do have these conversations, no matter what demographic you're in. Like, we all need to like talk, but there also needs to be accountability because this is harmful. It is hurting communities. And there's one thing of like holding space, but we got to stop coddling black men, especially in the manosphere and out of the manosphere, that still kind of have like, oh, this is a good point moments. Like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
no, like, that's actually messed up. You're wrong. This is why you're wrong. And you need to like take that in and really think about it. Um, so yeah, so that's how I feel about it. Those are my closing thoughts. It was a lot of work, but we got it done.
Everybody give it up for Jan. Okay.
Thank you,
Climbing
friend.
through
Thank
piss,
you.
shit, and broken glass to give us this information. There was psychic damage having to crawl through those spaces in
It
order
was
to come
rough.
back and give us that reconnaissance. Yeah, your contributions are not for nothing. I promise.
Thank you, friend. I appreciate it so much.
Yeah. This time change, this has nothing to do with anything. This time change makes me want to do crime. But my closing thoughts, the Manosphere, very very similar. Yeah, I really, men always say like, oh, like you guys say we need to create our own spaces, and then you do, and then they're toxic. So like that's
Yeah.
the issue, is we need to talk about your feelings, not about how much you hate women. Just
Yeah.
like a fun little like exercise. I don't know. I feel like we could do it. Um, but yeah, it's getting scary for the young ones
Mm.
because you see
Mm-hmm.
them growing up. What should you know about a body count? What should you know about gender roles? Like it's just
Yeah.
it's yeah, they're on the same internet we are, y'all, and
Mm.
it's getting very scary. But Yeah, that's femininity in the manosphere, y'all.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. If you would like to follow more on updates and when we'll be releasing episodes, you can go to Femmes at Large, spelled LRG, on Instagram, TikTok. Just check us out there. Yeah, we're gonna get these episodes out. We don't have a specific date or day yet, but it's coming. So just
It's
have
coming.
grace and work with us. He said what?
It's coming. I
It's
promise.
coming. It's coming. It's on the way. But we appreciate the love. We appreciate you listening. If you could, just like, share, subscribe these videos on YouTube, or leave a review. Let us know how you like this on all the podcasting platforms. And yeah, we'll be back soon. Bye, guys.
Bye.